Hello friends. In any web-based application, user registration, login, these are very fundamental features. But what is more important is role-based authentication. What do I mean by that? Well, you need to have separate registration tab for different type of users, like what you can see right over here. Consider I have a separate registration tab for the customers and a separate registration tab for the vendors. You might be dealing with the e-commerce application, or you might be dealing some inventory application. There would be different type of users. So how do you generate a different view in context to different users? That's very important. So you can see over here I have a registration tab for a user and the registration tab for a vendor. As I click on registration, oh, my application is not started. So let me start the application. Python manage.py run server. I hit enter and the application started. Let me go back once and let me reload the page, and I click on the user registration, and here the customer registration page turns up. Similarly, if I go and click on the vendor registration, as you can see the route also is getting changed. So the vendor registration, and this is register vendor, and this is register user or register customer whatsoever. But you have got only one login tab. That means registration portfolio is going to be unique, but login will be one single platform. That means whatever be the user type, they all will log in through one particular platform or one particular portal. Your application should be smart enough to differentiate which particular user type they belong to, and accordingly you have to open the routes. I can understand you might be getting confused. Don't worry, I will show you the whole thing. Over here I have got two email accounts. One is iot.prog.1 and the other one is iot.prog.2. What I will be doing is I will be registering the users with different email account. Of course, the email account has to be unique. So for that reason, I have opened two different email accounts so that I can show you live over here. Since I'm using PostgreSQL, let me bring you to account_user table or model, and let me run the script to show you that I just have got one user over here, that is basically the super user. That's the only one user which I have got. Apart from that, there's no other user present. So I'm going to create two new user, but one would be of type customer, the other one is of type vendor. So over here you see there's an attribute called role, and this attribute will be very important part to play. Okay, so let's get into the process. So let me come to the user registration, customer registration. Let me write the name as Swaroop space tab Shaha, and let's go for the username as, suppose this is the user, so I'm writing user Swaroop, and email ID is iot.prog.1@gmail.com, and I give the password as well, blah 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 blah. Let's click on the save button and look over here. There is no mail until now. Let me reload the tab once. There is no mail. Same goes with this one also. There is no mail present, neither in the account. Okay, let's come over here and let's click on the save button. As I do that, just wait for a while. Oh, I forgot to load a progress bar over here. That should be good enough. Here it comes a message, check your email account, and look over here, bingo. I already got a new mail. So let's come and click on this, and it says that this is a customer. Exactly, I did the registration a few minutes ago from the customer portal. So it is saying customer, and it is coming from swaroop.shah.info. That is the mail ID which I am using as the prime mail account. So I click on this, and as I said, okay, by the way, let's come over here and let's reload the tab. Since I did the registration, yes, a new account got created by the name as Swaroop Shaha, and the username is Swaroop. Username is Swaroop, and this is the email account which I used. But look over here, this is a role of type 2 because customer is of type 2. So in the code I have to mention two different type of role. One is for vendor and two is for customers. So how did I manage? Well, that's a code part. Some other day I will show you about those things. And look over here, is active is right now false. That means user cannot log unless and until this is active is true. So let's come to the code once again, I mean the browser, and let's activate the account. And as I click on this, customer account activation has been done. Congratulations. That's really nice. Okay, that's so good. Fine. So now let's do one thing. Let me get back to this. So that was the part of customer tab, and in the vendor still, let's reload the page, and there is no mail yet. So let's do the registration in context to vendor, and then we will log in. Okay, so let's give the username as Peter Parker, and username is like this is a vendor, so I will go a VNDOR vendor Peter, and the email ID is iot.prog.2@gmail.com, and let's go for the password, blah 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 blah. Let's click on the save button, and still there is no mail present over here, and we just saw in the database there's only one email account registered till now. That was Swarup Shah. Peter Parker is yet to be registered. Now let's come over here and let's click on the save button, and let's wait for the activation message to come. Where it is, and here it comes. Check your email for activation, and it's, oh, here it comes. That's really sweet. And this time, see, it's a vendor. So previously it was a customer, and this time it is a vendor. So let's click on this, and let me, oh, by the way, let's go and refresh the table once to show you that yes, the account came up, Peter Parker, vendor Peter, and the email account which I have used is iot.prog.2. And look over here, this time the role is 1, that means this is a vendor. So 1, 2, that's the way I'm differentiating, and is active is still false. So far so good. So let's go and click on the activation link. Let's click over here, and the activation link has been generated. So let's come to the table once again, and let's reload the table just to see that is active is now true, and is active is true. So far so really good. So now what I will do is that I will go for the login part. So we have got 2 mail from customer, we have got 1 mail from the vendor perspective. So let's come to the login, and we have got one single login, right? That's the thing. You need to have 2 different registration page for 2 different type of users, but there should be one common login. And since I have got only 3 email account, admin, this is the super user, leave this one, iot.prog.1, iot.prog.2. What if I try to insert iot.prog.3, which is not a valid one? So let's try to do that. iot.prog.3, which is not a valid, I also know, you also know, but still let me check whether my system knows blah 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 blah. Okay, so let's click on the login, and let's wait for a file. Oh god, it says invalid credential. Of course it is invalid, because that's not the correct one. So now let's go and give the right one. So that is 1, and I have given the same password. So now if I click on this, what should be the keys? iot.prog.1. If you see over here, iot.prog.1 is a customer. 2 is actually in my code. I have mentioned it's like an enum. 2 represent the customer and 1 represent the vendor. So the portal that should get opened is the customer portal. Let's click on the login, and let's see what happens. As I click on that, a message comes, you are now logged in. That's great. And you are right now in the customer portal. As you can see over here, it's showing customer, and that's the username, is the customer dashboard. And look over here, there is change in the nav bar. That should be the option, right? The registration tabs are no longer there, rather it is replaced by logout tab. And also there is one more hyperlink that is called purchase, although I did not do anything for the purchase, just for the sake of showing that as you redirect to the different dashboard, you will be having different options, and that is what the role-based authentication is meant for, because each user is supposed to have different roles. And that's how the industry works, that's how management works, right? So now let's go to the logout part, and as I log out, you are logged out, and see the menu bar once again got changed, the nav bar gets changed. That's the beauty. And now let's go for iot.prog, and I will go for 2, who is my vendor, @gmail.com, and let's give the password. What will the password? Blah 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 and blah. And let's click on the login button. Remember, iot.2 was my 1, that is a vendor. Okay, let's come and click on this, and as I click on this, a message will come, yeah, you are now logged in. So far so good. And see over here, the vendor has been shown, the vendor ID has been shown, and you look at the menu bar. Previously, in case of a customer, there was a tab called purchase, because customer usually will be purchasing it. or they can go for return also, but the vendor is going to sold something. See over here, the tab called sold is there. That means depending upon the role of the user, the tab or the nav bar options should get modified accordingly, because each user will be having different tasks to play, and that's how the role-based authentication becomes so important. Okay, so finally what we saw is, in a live application there should be multiple type of users. Each users should have different registration page, because you might provide different input for those users, but there should be one common login, and your application should be clever enough, should be intelligent enough to differentiate that which particular user it is, and according to that the respective dashboard should get open, and you can move on with the different role functionalities of the user. Okay, so that's all from the video presentation. I know I didn't show you the code part. Definitely I will be sharing with you about how did I manage to do this, but for the time being, that's what this particular presentation is all about. Okay, see you soon. Bye bye, take care.